RMJ Movie Reviews back again, y'all. And as I said, I'm coming with my movie review from the Arnold-a-thon, A Running Man, starring my man, Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger himself. Is actually directed by Paul Michael Glazer. Also, co-starring Maria Conchita Alonso, Yaphet Kotto, and Richard Dawson of formerly Family Feud fame. For all of you really old people, older than me, and I'm almost 40. The Running Man was another staple of my wonderful, extraordinary 1980s childhood. I never forget, I still have the VHS copy, but I remember it premiered on HBO, Saturday night HBO, whatever you call it, the premiere movie. That The Running Man is not my favorite of classic Arnold, but it has enough of the 1980s cliches and Arnold's one-liners, and I might add, the music that is done by Harold Faltermeyer. He did the music for Tango and Cash. He did the music for the first two Beverly Hills Cop movies, and I believe he did the music for Top Gun as well. And you can also hear little echoes of that within the soundtrack. Television has taken over the world, which is basically where we're at right now. Humanity has been enslaved. They can't do whatever they want. They have very strict rules. So they're freedom fighters that have gone underground. If you go against the rules of society, whatever that big television says, you get arrested and all kinds of groovy little things happen to you. You're in some Mad Max looking type of prison. Arnold escapes with Yaphet Kotto and a bunch of other freedom fighters because he was wrongly imprisoned for not murdering a bunch of homeless people. And he gets captured, and then he gets involved in this game called The Running Man, which basically it's like a game of death where you have these stalkers who come out, one played by Jim Brown, Jesse Ventura. The gentleman, I forget his name, but he was the main villain in The Perfect Weapon with Jeff Speakman. And you've got the gentleman who was the pedophile from Alone in the... He plays Dynamo. I think that sounded excellent. Buzzsaw. And one of the beautiful things about The Running Man is not only does it take advantage of a futuristic premise of television, being very satirical, what we also saw in RoboCop the same year, being very satirical with these over-the-top commercials and how people really believe everything the television is showing them. Because The Running Man plays a lot with the media and how the media lies to you and everything is not as it's presented, which is pretty much where we're at right now. Mass media controlling people's minds and ruling the planet. I love how The Running Man also takes advantage of what was very popular in the day, professional wrestling, which now it's known as WWE. But in the 80s, for us old people, that would be me. I'm about to be 39 years old in a month. It was known as WWF. So all the stalkers kind of have like these cool little names that are WWF sounding, and they're also very heavy in stature. You know, so you have Sub-Zero, Buzzsaw, and like I said, Dynamo. And I can't remember Jim Brown's name. God, what was his name? I can't remember, but he has a flamethrower. And Jim Brown actually is a pretty good villain. He actually comes off a little bit creepy. And Richard Dawson puts in an extremely slimy performance. He is fantastic. He's so just full of himself. He's smug. He's a backstabber. He's very much like a certain person we know who's running the country right now. I want to say Jesse Ventura. I totally forgot. I always remember Jesse Ventura was in Predator, but I forget that Jesse Ventura was also in this. I don't know why I always forget that Jesse Ventura was in this. But Jesse Ventura, really, he doesn't get to do much in this film, but he does have that spoiler. I mean, is this if I can spoil The Running Man? But the fake death of Arnold Schwarzenegger's character and Maria Conchita Alonso. The scene where Jesse Ventura is fighting Arnold and Arnold pulls his hair out and Jesse Ventura kind of... I love that scene. That's always one of my favorite scenes in the film. The cinematography, along with Harold Faltermeyer's score, which sounds very keyboardy, and it fits the futuristic tone, futuristic for 1980s, which basically means giant televisions, which is our life now, and basically people that have big shoulder pads that look like robot equipment, and they walk around like this. That was futuristic to us in the 80s. And it did look high tech at the time. Now it looks very dated, but it's still fun. It's pure 80s. And Arnold is doing his thing, man. Arnold really, again, he has some of his best one-liners. And Running Man is not my favorite Arnold movie, but he still has some of his best one-liners. Here, Christmas tree, follow me, light bulb. How about a light? Of course, Arnold does say, I'll be back in this one. And at this time period, Arnold was saying, I'll be back in all his movies. It was so much fun. Oh, I meant to go back to the cinematography. The cinematography has very strong colors. And it makes each environment, although it basically comes down to really bright reds and really bright blues. Those are really the two color contrasts that you get within this film. But I remember as a little kid, that was always one of the things I could always remember about The Running Man was the colors. And that's what I always loved about this film. Just the visual look, the sound, and just the old school action. Now, is the action anything to brag about? Nah, it's by the numbers. But between the WWF kind of satirical television-esque mass media controlling of the world within this movie, it's fun. You got the gory special effects, politically incorrect stuff, which they don't do anymore. I wish they would go back to it. When I actually make my first film, I'm gonna get in on all that. The action can be a little bit kind of uninspiring. I will say Predator had much better action sequences and they were much better done. Because basically the action in this movie comes down to them running and Arnold going, that's a staple of every Arnold movie from back in the day. Is Arnold does a lot of and the finale, it ends with a shootout. And the shootout finale, even when I was a little kid, I kind of felt like it was meh. But it was funny because Arnold doesn't get a gun until the end of the movie, but it was still cool to see it. And what else can I say about The Running Man? The Running Man it's a fun 1980s, just satirical, gory macho fest, And Maria Conchita Alonso is the damsel in distress, as she was the damsel in distress. Oh man, she was so beautiful back then. If there's any one-liners or any good moments that, I will say, Arnold's best one-liner probably in the entire movie of The Running Man was probably when they're leaving. They go, "What happened to Buzzsaw?" He had to split. Oh, I love the 80s, y'all. Look, that's my review of The Running Man. Classic, old school Arnold Schwarzenegger flick. I'm coming back with my next movie review of Red Heat, starring Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger himself and Jim Belushi, directed by Walter Hill. I have some interesting things to say about Red Heat, but thumbs up the video, man. Subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the bell, share, leave comments down below about The Running Man, anything else I forgot about it. And if everything I said about The Running Man you don't like, why don't you go watch The Bridges of Madison County? RMJ Movie Reviews. I'll see you soon.